So I almost didn't go to grad school. After finishing at Westmont College, I took off to Europe to teach high school English, and it was an amazing experience, but also really hard because I was 21 and the oldest students in my class were 18 and 19, and it was a school that was 90% boys. And so as a teacher, I had to develop some serious classroom skills really quickly because I also didn't speak Hungarian, which meant that they would say things and I wouldn't know what they were saying, and it could have been like they were planning a party for Friday night, or they might have been plotting my murder, or they could have just been cheating on the exam. I really had no way of knowing. And the funny thing was, I loved it. So for a whole lot of reasons, I ended up doing some volunteer work in Washington, D.C. and was trying to kind of figure out what should come next in my life. And I was actually thinking about maybe becoming a nun because I for other reasons, dating reasons, had decided that maybe it would be better just to be single and pursue the convent. And on my first day of work, of course, I met this blue-eyed Australian across the room who, it was really love at first sight. And we started talking, and we had just a couple of days together, and then he took off for Canada. And I was feeling really lame and silly because I had hung out with this guy for a few times and had a crush on him. And I was thinking about becoming a nun. So none of this was working and none of this was making sense, and I realized I definitely shouldn't be a nun if this was my response to meeting an Aussie. I also decided that I should apply to grad school. And so that's what I did. And I got accepted to UC Santa Barbara with a full ride for English literature. But you see, something else had happened in the interim between the time I applied and the time that I got accepted, and that is that blue-eyed Aussie had come back to visit me for a few days in DC, and we decided after 18 days of knowing each other, but really only spending maybe 15 hours together, that the only sensible thing to do was for me to move to Australia. And I arrived in Sydney and got accepted to grad school and had to choose because Australia and true love or academic career were the choices before me, and they were 8,000 miles apart. And so I chose true love. I said no to UC Santa Barbara, and I got married to my husband. We've now been married for 16 years, and we have two incredible children who were also complete surprises in that I didn't want kids, and they actually are kind of cool, so that's been awesome. And that was that. I got a job teaching high school in Sydney, and we had great friends. We lived less than half a mile from 5 different beaches. I'd wake up every morning and I'd go running along the beach and watch the sunrise over the Pacific and listen to the rainbow lorikeets in the Norfolk Pines, and life was good. And then all of our friends started buying houses and talking about having babies. And my husband and I looked at each other and thought, wow, that sounds really growing up, and we're just not ready for mortgage and babies yet. So we quit our 2 very good jobs and moved to Vancouver, Canada, so we could do master's degrees in theology. But we still had no plans of me becoming an academic. The idea was we'd go to grad school for fun for a few years and learn some stuff and have a great adventure in British Columbia and go skiing on the weekends and learn from just these incredible Christian thinkers. But it started to become really clear that I was good at this whole academic thing, that not only did I just really love teaching and the kind of almost performance nature of getting up in front of a class of students and taking them on this wild journey of helping them understand stuff without really ever any of us knowing quite where it was going to head. I loved that part, but I was also really good at the writing and the research and really enjoyed that. So I applied to grad school again for the second time and was really, really nervous because I'd gotten in once before but given up on that for my husband and didn't know if I could do it again, if I'd get in again. And I got in to the University of Notre Dame. My husband had never been to Indiana, and so we packed everything up into a U-Haul, and he applied for a green card, and we drove to Indiana, sight unseen. And we ended up being there for 10 years. And I did my PhD there in British literature, focusing on 19th century novels, thinking about how stories work, what it means to be storytelling people, the ways in which the stories we tell actually can shape our ideas about God and the universe and even fundamentally change our theology. Kind of exploring how that worked in the 19th century. I got to teach all sorts of fun classes, film studies and the 19th century novel and writing, and it was a really great time. And then ended up being able to get a job out here at George Fox. And so we moved back to the Pacific Northwest about a year ago now. And so that is how I became an academic. Totally by accident, and kind of just by putting one foot in front of the other. And now I'm an English professor.